I'll tell you about a cereal that I ate that I didn't eat soggy.
Okay, wait, I have to share this. My roommate said that he could listen to some hot cereal talk all day. He wanted more cereal
No, wait.
talk.
Hot cereal or hot cereal?
Hot cereal.
Okay.
Like, not like hot, like as
cereal.
in
Not like cream of
oatmeal or
wheat.
cream of wheat,
Yeah.
yes. But like,
So just like really breathy cereal talk.
So, first I'm pouring
no,
the
not like
cornflakes in
cereal
the bowl.
porn.
And then I'm pouring the milk on top of the cornflakes.
No, he feels very...
And I put in my spoon.
You forgot the sugar. Wink.
Oh, sugar baby. Pour some sugar on me.
Pour some sugar on me. Anyway.
In the name of crunch.
I'm going to kill you.
Welcome to Spoiler Peace Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Evan Crean. I'm editor for The Independent. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living.
And I'm Megan Kearns. I'm a freelance film critic, editor of Bitchflix, and I too am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
And I'm Dave Riedel. I write for Salt Lake City Weekly, Orlando Weekly. I'm a member of BAFCA, and I just used some lovely hand lotion. Yay!
You're welcome.
Thank you. It's wintry and cold, and the cracked hands.
They need some lotion love.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs some lotion love.
That's true. I also use
Hey-o.
Yeah, that's just... No.
I'm sorry. We haven't had a good hey-o for a while.
I know, it's been a while. What were you saying, Megan?
I was just saying I use the lotion too, but I just wanted off that train.
All right. So you put the lotion on the skin. Moving
Yes.
on. We have one movie that we're talking about this week.
There's no movies coming out.
I know. We saw this one movie. We actually just saw this movie, The Gentleman.
Yeah, my thoughts aren't coherent yet. So you guys talk amongst yourselves.
Yes.
Uh-oh, I don't know if my thoughts are
Writer,
coherent.
director Guy Ritchie returns to the London gangster game with The Gentleman.
With a bunch of Americans.
I know.
And some...
Well, 2 Americans.
Yeah, I was like, and some Brits.
Yeah. Yeah. And Henry Golding playing against type. Is that his name?
Yes.
That is his name, yes.
That is Henry Golding.
Because the only 2 times I've seen him do anything, he's been like Mr. Sweet, like, "Oh, I'm so supportive, love you."
Yeah, no, this is a very different
And now
role.
he's playing a right prick. So
Yes.
tis the correct term.
yeah.
I mean, so if you've seen Guy Ritchie's older stuff, it's more the same. It's, one of those twisty, double-crossy crime movies with brutality mixed with humor.
Yeah, that
Well,
pretty much
the
sums it
brutality
up.
is so absurd in this movie that it's all humorous. I mean, the tiny bullets thing was genuinely funny to me.
Oh, yeah, totally.
You know?
Yeah, when Michelle Dockery fires that tiny-ass gun.
Yeah.
The paperweight.
The
Yes,
paperweight.
The paperweight.
Oh, he even says that to her. He's like, "Oh, you've got a paperweight."
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, well, why don't we start with the plot summary? This is the press notes plot summary. Fancy.
Oh yeah. Oh boy.
From writer-director Guy Ritchie comes The Gentleman, a star-studded, sophisticated action comedy.
What breaking in? Sophisticated? I mean, I know they all wear suits.
You bet
but-
your sweet ass is sophisticated.
I mean, only Colin Farrell, I think, could pull off that plaid.
Plaid
but,
tracksuit.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, well, let's get to the tracksuit in a minute. But this story follows American expat Mickey Pearson, Matthew McConaughey, who has built a highly profitable marijuana empire in London. When word gets out that he's looking to cash out of the business, a host of colorful, if entirely illegitimate figures scheme, bribe, and blackmail their way to try and steal Mickey's domain out from under him.
Is this actually real press notes? Like somebody wrote this who does this for a living?
I
mean,
guess so.
This is this was in the screening invitation.
It's not written very well.
Was it that, or was it my bad British accent that ruined
I think
it?
your accent helped it. what bothers me, and I know this is so nitpicky. It's not try and. It's try to. You don't try and do anything. You try to do something. So number one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also time when. This is not in there, but it's while we're on the subject. It's time when, not time where. It's time when. Time is when. It was a time where we were all kids. No, it was a time when you were all kids, actually. It was a time when we had a DeLorean that traveled through time.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
I mean, and that's really what this movie is about, as people
DeLorean?
as people sitting in rooms having grammatical discussions.
Actually, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is that part where, was it Henry Golding tries to correct Michelle Dockery's grammar? I think he says something like, I take issue with your grammar.
Yes.
You're right.
Yes.
Yes, that does
And
happen.
then this isn't really a grammar conversation, but when Colin Farrell has the conversation with Ernie, I don't know the actor's name, about, whether a term is racist or not. It's not a grammar thing, but it's a semantic thing.
Yes.
So
Semantics. One of my teachers in high school, anytime he was arguing an unwinnable position, would just go, well, now we're just arguing semantics.
nice.
Yes.
I think I had that teacher.
Didn't we all?
I think we did.
Teachers who knew they were arguing something unwinnable and even knew that probably what their point was wrong.
Yeah. But
But they were a teacher and felt like they had to keep up a certain appearance around students.
Indeed. I feel like most of my teachers were drunk. So
Oh my God.
I went to high school in France. They fucking had, they're drinking at lunch.
They had wine in the drawer. There sometimes were
Maybe,
gesturing with a wine glass in their hand.
We had alcohol at my prom. So, at the prom. So,
Wow. That's different.
yeah, if you were 16, you're like, fucking go ahead. So,
All right.
Everything here is spiked.
yeah. Exactly. Don't even worry about the punch. Go for the real stuff. So,
So what do we think of this movie?
it was
Gentlemen.
fine. I was entertained.
Yeah, I enjoyed it while I was watching it. I don't think this is going to be something that necessarily sticks with me for a very long time, but I enjoyed it while I was watching it. Hugh Grant was a delight.
Mm-hmm.
In a very un-Hugh Grant role, which is what he's been doing
Very
lately.
Un-Hugh Grant role, yes.
For one thing, he is really lined up on the face. Is he like 60 years old now or something?
No, maybe.
He looks older is what I'm saying.
Yes.
But
People
remember,
do age.
well, right. And but do you remember he's been doing this? He doesn't appear in movies very often anymore, but when he does, it's usually something very different from what he's done before. Like if you remember Cloud Atlas, he's all like painted blue and white and firing arrows at people.
I did not remember that, but
I
thank
did
you
not
for
see
reminding
it,
me.
So
Yeah.
now I know. Now I'm.
You can skip it
But
because it's
now
the worst.
Now I want to see it.
I actually liked Cloud Atlas when I saw it, but I this is just a tangent, so I'm not even going to go down that road.
Okay.
We should spend more of our time talking about this movie, which we just saw, which
Right.
I agree was entertaining.
It was entertaining.
Yeah.
It was a little distracting because there was assholes sitting behind us that were distracting from the movie.
That's always unfortunate.
Yeah,
Yes.
that is.
But yeah, I found it entertaining in the vein of other Guy Ritchie movies. I mean, the last one that he did in this vein, I think, was Rock and Rolla, which
is bad.
I liked parts of it,
10
but
years old, maybe?
yeah, it's about 10 years ago. I think there were probably generally some more entertaining people in it. Like Idris Elba was in it.
Wait a minute. Rock and Roll is not the one I'm thinking of. Rock and Roll is not the one where Jason Statham has hair, right?
No.
Okay. I'll find out which one that is. Go. Sorry.
I found it entertaining, and I do think that there is something to this genre that Guy Ritchie brings to it. He definitely has a talent for telling this kind of story. I think it's a little bit sad that it's getting kind of stale. I mean, it's mostly just kind of doing the same thing, rinse and repeat. You've got lots of different rival gangs and players, and everybody is trying to screw the other guy over, and tons of double crosses. And I think sometimes to the point where it gets a little bit convoluted, where you're thinking, okay, well, wait, what? How many times has this person played this other person or switched sides or what have you?
Yeah. Well, I had an interesting moment in this. When the Russian kid showed up, I was like, well, this is going to be something. But then
totally.
they just forgot about him for so long. I was just like, oh, well, maybe he's not something. And then when it all came back around, I was like, okay, I was right.
You were right.
I was right the first time. But also, I figure, Russian oligarchs, that's kind of a thing right now. So why wouldn't it be a big part of the plot? which is part of the whole double crossing thing. Actually, that's not even a double cross. That's just somebody trying to kill some people.
Right. That's
Right.
just straight up revenge.
Right.
Yeah, that's an outside player coming in and.
Yeah.
So yeah, so speaking kind of that, so I'm not super well versed in Guy Ritchie's oeuvre.
Oh God, I am.
As far as like I've seen his films that are outside of this particular genre.
Your Sherlock Holmes.
Exactly, Aladdin, things like that.
Man from Uncle.
He did Aladdin?
He did Aladdin. Yes, he did.
No.
Yes, he did.
Well, he's a multifaceted, multi-talented man.
Oh, sure.
I mean, I didn't see Aladdin. So.
But yeah, so I'm not super well versed like you guys are on his films in this vein, but I was really taken in when we're not even 5 minutes into the film and our protagonist is murdered, and I'm like,
See, I knew that was bullshit because he's done that before.
See, and that pisses me off because, like, if I'd seen something else of his, I would have been tipped off.
Yes.
But I was like, oh, this is great. I love that. I love when we have unexpected, things like that where, somebody is killed right away. I think that's great. I'm like, okay, we're going to be working back. Like, obviously I knew Matthew McConaughey would still be in it, but we're going to be working backwards. This is kind of cool. And no, it's like he's still alive.
Right. Well, Matthew McConaughey walks into a bar and then gets shot in the head, but you never see him get shot. You just see the blood splatter on his beer glass and on his pickled egg that he requested. Also, gotta love that the beer he was drinking was called Ritchie.
And there was a Ritchie van later in the movie. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes, I did. I did notice that. I knew when we didn't see him and we just saw the blood that it had to be one of those. It's such a Guy Ritchie scenario. Then someone else came out and shot the guy who was about to shoot him.
In this case, it was Charlie Hunnam who shot the guy. I'm no Charlie Hunnam fan. I don't even know how many movies I've seen him in. I liked him in this part.
I actually did too, and I've never liked him. And I was really pleasantly surprised at how good he was in this.
I also dug how finely coiffed his hair and beard were.
Oh.
Everybody in this movie,
you could
by
almost
the way,
smell the cologne on him.
my God.
Dressed so sharp.
So I have to say, I love a very meticulously groomed beard, and that beard was great.
Yeah. Too bad Matthew McConaughey can't really grow a beard. It's all patchy.
Yeah, it's all scraggly. I like that in this movie Matthew McConaughey is basically just playing the guy from those Wild Turkey commercials that he does.
Does he do Wild Turkey?
Yeah, he does some whiskey commercial, and he's basically just...
Yeah, he's not the Lincoln guy. You're right.
Yeah, he's just the guy from the whiskey commercials.
with downplaying his Texas accent also.
Yes.
Which was kind of refreshing because sometimes that drawl of his, it's just like, would you put that away, please? Might as well just like whip your dick out in front of me the way you wield that thing.
Oh my.
No, I'm just it's like a weapon with him almost sometimes, No,
but it is interesting because everybody does have a different accent in this. Like Hugh Grant's accent is like Cockney or what have you. And Michelle Dockery, I mean, I don't know if that's her real accent, but it's very different than her.
She was great.
She is great in it. Michelle Dockery is always great, but it's very different than her Downton Abbey accent and American accents that she's done. Obviously, Charlie Hunnam usually does an American accent.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see.
Is
people
Charlie
mix
Hunnam an
up.
Englishman?
I believe he is.
Oh,
yeah.
So I didn't know that. I was just like, oh, you're a guy I don't watch, so.
No, I'm almost positive. Yeah, that he's British. Yeah, he might be Australian, but I think he is British.
And then the guy who played Robert Downey's brother in The Judge was in this.
Jeremy Strong, who is American.
He is. No, I know he's American.
Goddamn
and his character's
movie,
American.
The Judge. I hate that movie anyway.
I don't love that movie, mostly because it takes place in Indiana, but it was clearly not shot in Indiana.
I despise that movie so much.
Ooh, I just had a a revelation.
So, a revelation.
Matthew McConaughey and Jeremy Strong in this, they were also in that movie Serenity. Remember that movie?
Oh my God!
Remember that movie?
Yes.
Unfortunately, yes.
From last year, that fucking crazy ass movie.
I will
that
never
was the
forget
most
that movie.
amazing movie. And you brought this up. You're the one who brought this up. It's like it's this kid who's writing this game, having this fantasy. Why is there so much fucking?
Right? Why is he imagining his mother and father fucking? It's weird. It's creepy. Why is he imagining his mother having the shit beaten out of her? There's so many things
I just remember
fucked up about that weird ass movie.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey's like very noticeable hip gyrations, being like, "Oh my God, he's fucking going
There's
for
a
it."
lot of McConaughey butt in that movie. I mean, there always is, but
why is your kid imagining his dad's naked ass? What is going on?
There's no kids imagining weird shit in The Gentleman. There's just
God.
just goofiness.
Yeah. There is some projectile vomiting.
some
Oh,
really
yeah.
bizarre projectile vomiting.
Yeah, there's a rival gang lord that he poisons, and the guy just
Yes,
starts
the
projectile
parasite.
vomiting
Yeah.
while he burns the fucking place down,
Yes,
basically.
his
meth
heroin
lab.
or meth lab, yeah.
Yeah. So, the double crossing, I would say if we're going to think about plot, this reminds me more of Snatch than anything else.
Yes. Or rock and roll, because I feel like there was also the double crossing and
right.
weird
There's also
random
double crossing in that.
shit. I did like in this one, although it often is annoying, the framing device of Hugh Grant revealing to Charlie Hunnam how he figured out all of the stuff
Yeah.
and retelling the story. That their dynamic is really funny between the two of them. Where
Yeah.
Hugh Grant has this elaborate he's got this blackmail scheme. He's going to blackmail Matthew McConaughey, Charlie Hunnam. And so he's revealing all these machinations that are happening in the background of other people and just using it as an opportunity for blackmail.
Yeah, I actually really liked that, and I do like it. And it's obviously a framing device, but I really like that when Hugh Grant would go too far in telling a story, Charlie Hunnam would be like, no, that's not how Matthew McConaughey would be. That's not how that it would
Right,
happen.
yeah.
And then they would rewind and replay. There was something I kind of enjoyed about that.
I think part of what sold that so much was Hugh Grant.
Oh,
he was
100%.
He was 100% committed to that part.
Yeah.
And he was just like, all right, I'm on set for 5 days. I'm just going to have fun.
Yep.
Give me my, $250,000 that I'm getting for, 4 days of work or whatever.
Mhm.
The other thing that I liked about this, I don't even know what you would call it. It's the regular frame rate, and then he's like super slow-mo that he did for years and
for
years
Sherlock
and years.
Holmes when he would
Exactly.
do those
Yep.
effect shots.
There's none of that in this, which I was like very pleased. Or if there is, I didn't notice
I
it.
enjoyed the editing. I thought the editing was pretty
Editing
good.
was
Yeah.
sharp.
It was snappy, especially when you had the gang of
The-
boxing hooligans.
The boys, the kids, or
the
whatever.
boxing
Coach's
hooligans
boys.
who were wearing tracksuits and beating people up. Their music video
Oh, the
that they
music
made
Oh
video
my
was
God.
amazing.
was really well done.
It
I thought that
was
was
really
really
well
effectively
done.
edited and entertaining.
Yeah.
They're all rapping, but they've got like the black bars over their eyes to hide their identities
Yeah.
while they're beating the shit out of people in the grow house. Matthew McConaughey's grow house that they rob.
There's also, thinking of that scene, there's also a really kind of intriguing commentary happening on media
Yeah.
in the fact that Hugh Grant is trying to, as he's bribing Charlie Hunnam, he's talking about his script, and then at the end of the film he's pitching his script to Miramax studio
Yeah.
exec, and then the coach's boys in the plaid tracksuits are all filming themselves and putting
Right.
up fight porn and and
Fight porn.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what they call it.
That's what they call it. And
Yeah.
then when Aslan, the Russian kid, falls from one of the apartments,
Yeah.
and then the other kids are taking selfies with a
With the
dead
body.
Like, there really is a thread running throughout about media oversaturation and just this kind of superficiality of
Yeah.
recording everything.
Oh, for sure. That's definitely there. And
Yeah.
it's funny for a movie that is generally lighthearted about everything
Right.
to have that kind of undertone,
Yeah.
right.
that criticism there. That scene is reminding me. So then Charlie Hunnam and his guys are chasing down these kids with their phones because they have the evidence of this Russian kid
yep.
getting pushed out the window. And Charlie Hunnam is running and he's out of breath and he confronts this kid for his phone. And then all the kids' buddies, try to step up. And it's, there's this standoff and you think, oh, well, Charlie Hunnam's not going to get out of this. And then he just pulls this like submachine gun with a silencer out and just starts firing in the air. And then all of them book it.
Yeah. I did wonder. I was like, I didn't know where that was going. I'm like, he's not going to fight all these
Right.
guys.
Right.
What's
Of
going
course
on
not.
I'm
here?
like, he's going to have a gun, but I didn't picture him having like an actual machine gun,
Yeah.
which
Right.
made it impressive that he was able to run as fast as he was running. after
Maybe
the kid
that's
in
why
the
he
first
couldn't
place.
catch the kid. You
Yeah,
know, you
that
got an
could
extra
be.
13 pounds you're carrying around or whatever. I don't know.
Where's you out?
Yeah. Especially it's all on one side, so. But so Matthew McConaughey's the biggest weed dealer in the UK, and he's trying to sell his weed farms to Jeremy Strong
Right, because he
And-
wants to get out of the business.
because he wants to get out of the business, which he never really explains why he wants to do, except
No.
for
He's
the
just
whole
kinda
like it's
tired
going to
of it.
become legal and then the whatever. And so then Jeremy Strong, there's this, maybe it's a cross with Henry Golding, and Henry Golding's in there with King George. King George is another gangster who deals in heroin, and Henry
Lord
Golding,
George.
Lord George, pardon me. King George, Lord George.
Yeah,
all
6 and 1,
whatever.
half dozen the other.
Mm-hmm.
And then Henry Golding is working for him, but he might also be working for Jeremy Strong. This is what you're talking about with the double crosses.
Yeah,
and
it
why
just
it's-
gets a little confusing, and it doesn't need to be that confusing.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of appreciate that Guy Ritchie always does this kind of twisty-turny stuff, but to your point, I think it does just, all right, you've got a few too many layers here. Let's just peel them back, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't need to be that complicated.
We don't need 8 plots. Let's go with 5 or 6, you know? I did like the idea of the end of Jeremy Strong getting his pound of flesh taken from him. That actually kind of made me laugh in a sort of, you know,
Morbid way.
gallows humor sort of way.
Yeah.
You know, because the first thing I thought was, you know, the third death in 7, when the guy has to like cut his own fucking
Yeah. I mean,
abdomen, but
it's totally a Guy Ritchie move. Like, I think there was a scene in Rock and Roller where Tom Wilkinson says to some guy, like, you're going to go in the drink and I'm going to make myself a tea. And by the time my tea's done, I'm going to pull you out or whatever it is. It's just like, there's something so ridiculous about whatever violence is involved here. The pound of flesh, especially. Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I mean, it's hard to take any Guy Ritchie movie too seriously because they are made to be, I mean, he's, you know, a talented filmmaker. I'll give him that if you're into his thing, but everything is just so done to the max that you cannot take it seriously, you know, which I think, you're raising your hand.
No, I wasn't actually raising my hand. I just, you know, my hand motions just go into overdrive when I talk. You know, it is interesting, though, that you're talking about this, and you're so right. It is so over the top that you can't take it seriously. But there are these strange, serious commentaries kind of being jammed in there, like the fact, like that there's a weird kind of pro-weed, anti-heroin, and harder drug commentary, like with the daughter of the Lord, who they have to go rescue because she's a heroin junkie.
Right.
And
then she ODs anyway.
Yes. So, and like Matthew McConaughey gives that speech to Lord George about how he's disseminating poison in the world that's destroying people because he's a heroin and meth dealer. And so it is so absurdist in its action and its twistiness and what it's doing visually on screen, but yet there are these really heavy like messages that he's
which you can kind of get away with because everything else is so ridiculous. You can slip in something more serious, and maybe it'll go over a bunch of people's heads, and you know, but smart people like you guys will pick up on it.
Yeah. I'll tell you something I could do without. I could do without the greedy Jew stereotype crammed in here with Jeremy Strong being, you know, everyone's like, oh, the Jew's going to get us. And
I'm not going to defend that, but I am going to say I think that for Guy Ritchie, his wielding of stereotypes, which he does for every group, and I'm not saying that's good either, it's kind of like he's the English Tarantino, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like, my characters say these things because these are the kinds of people they are. That would be his excuse.
Right. Well, like when someone calls that character a black cunt.
Yes,
and then,
exactly.
Yes.
And then Colin Farrell says, well, you are a cunt and you
are
black.
Right. Yeah. No, but Evan, I totally know what you mean because that was offensive, but then there's other racism, like about, you know, Chinese people and Asians and like, that was super racist. And the thing, and Dave, you're totally right that Guy Ritchie probably would, you know, say that like, oh, well, these are just the characters. They're gangsters. They're going to be talking like that. But at the same time, whenever you have something like that, I always feel like there should be at least one person who's like calling that shit out or calling out the absurdism or the stupidity of it or something. And that doesn't really happen. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like Jeremy Strong's character is the only character that kind of gets that treatment too. It's like, it would be one thing to have a Jewish gangster and to have him have more character traits than just being like, he's a Jew, he's got Mossad bodyguards, you know. If he's
God,
actually,
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, if his character actually has attributes that aren't, because like, what's the point of making him Jewish otherwise? Like,
right.
Because his character has this whole thing about, oh, he's a really sharp dresser and he's got different outfits for the seasons and he talks in, you know, kind of I don't know.
Strange cadence.
Yeah, strange cadence and in metaphors.
Some
and
very
things like
interesting acting choices that Jeremy Strong made for this part.
He does that in a lot of roles, though, which is...
Well, I've seen him play things where it just feels more naturalistic, and then you see other performances like this that are really mannered, and you're like, I mean, you can do it all, I guess.
Yes. But speaking of Serenity again, he was like that in Serenity too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I don't know.
It's
what
a
was
weird
happening.
crossover.
Very
I
much
can't believe
so.
it didn't hit me earlier.
I know.
I guess I was trying to just put Serenity out of my mind.
I mean, I would have much rather seen Michelle Dockery as she is in this movie, but what if Anne Hathaway played that part?
Oh.
Oh, my God.
I think she could have pulled it
Oh,
off.
I think she probably could have, too. But I'm
Yeah.
just saying, wouldn't that be crazy if you had the
That
two leads
would've.
and Jeremy Strong?
That
Yeah.
would just been weird.
Yeah, I mean, and then speaking of Jeremy Strong, he's the one that gives Matthew McConaughey the quote-unquote paperweight, which is a golden gun. What did they call those? Derringers, where they're just like two shots
I don't
or one shot. They're tiny
Two
little
shots.
gun. And yeah, and
But they'll still kill you.
they'll still kill you apparently because
Mhm.
Michelle Dockery gets her hands on one.
She's
And
quite a good shot.
There's two guys in her
Jeez.
office, and she shoots them both in the head. And the first guy takes a long time to drop dead. He's feeling the bullet hole in his head and looking down and having lots of moments of realizing that he's about to die.
Yep.
And the other guy just gets shot in the head.
And then
So
drops
why,
dead.
why beat that joke into the ground? Like you did the first time, really. But yeah, I don't know. It's I don't think I would say like you got to see this movie. But I mean, and I'm not one to gauge how good a movie is by audience reaction, but the audience was on board with this movie, but not in an annoying way. I felt like.
Yeah, they're suitably invested.
Right.
Yeah.
And to speak to Guy Ritchie's talent, he can make situations very tense, and I think he's good at setting up.
Oh, the whole thing in the apartment with what ends up with them accidentally killing the Russian kid.
Yeah, he does a really good job of creating tension and creating situations where you really do believe your character is not going to make it out, like McConaughey in the beginning. And even after that, when you find out that the Russian guy is cleaning house and killing all of these
Yeah.
people too, you think Matthew McConaughey is going to be a goner in
Yeah.
that scene too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this was a very well-paced film.
Yeah.
Well edited, well paced. Yeah.
The only thing that I thought dragged a little bit, and I don't even think dragged is the right word, it was just like a longer set of scenes than everything else, was when they go to the apartment to retrieve the Lord's daughter from like the heroin junkie guy she's hanging out with.
Right.
That was a long sequence. It ended up working fine
Yeah.
for me, but at the same time, I was like, we've been in this apartment building a really long time.
Right.
Which is so different because everything else is so quick.
Yeah.
And yeah. So it's
I mean, it's still got like
feel
the
different.
rapid fire editing, but just
Right.
like the amount of, I mean, they're in there. It feels they got to be in there like 17 minutes, whereas
Mhm.
everything else is like 3 minutes and out.
right.
you know?
Right.
Yeah. This movie also reminded me because one of the guys who's in the jumpsuit fighting crew is in he's one of the kids in Attack the Block, and this movie
Oh.
very much reminded me of Attack. Have you either of you guys seen that movie?
I don't think
haven't.
so.
It's been on my list for such a long time.
It's really entertaining. It's about a group of South London like punk kids who live in a housing tenement, and aliens land in their neighborhood, and they have to
Yeah.
fight them off. And one of the kids is part of this crew. And so it just reminded me a lot, especially the scenes where they're going to get the Lord's daughter in that kind of shitty apartment building. It felt very reminiscent of that. Because
Right.
there's scenes where the kids are being chased by the aliens and Attack the Block and ducking around corners. And it's just they have that knowledge of the neighborhood to really help give them the upper hand in that situation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I looked up the other movie that I was thinking of. It is a Guy Ritchie movie. It does star Jason Statham with hair. It's called Revolver. I don't know if it ever came out in the U.S. It's more of a drama. I mean, it's still like
Yeah. I'm trying
uh,
to think if I've seen that one. I've seen almost all of his other movies.
It's I remember Jason Statham. The thing I remember most about it is that he has hair.
Which
and
is
it's long
freaking me
hair.
out.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, it's long. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often.
And it's it's much more serious than Rock and Rolla or this or
Mhm.
Snatch or what's Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Yes.
By the way, I don't know if either of you saw that when that movie came out in the U.S. in like '98. I had not been living in New York a very long time, and I saw it with my then girlfriend and some other friends there's this theater on 11th and 3rd, which I don't know if it's there anymore. And it was like it wasn't like a special theater or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that movie fucking lit up that theater. Nobody had ever seen anything like that.
Right.
You know,
It was very unique when it hit the scene.
Yeah.
Sting was in that, right?
Sting is in that.
And
yes.
Vinnie Jones, who unfortunately has not been in Guy Ritchie movies for a while, but he made
Yeah.
his debut in that and Snatch and was entertaining as what was his character's name? Bullet Tooth Tony.
Yeah, I don't remember. But
Bullet Tooth Tony kept getting shot, and that was really funny.
yeah, yeah. This is There are so many characters in this movie, though. It feels like all the other movies have a lot of characters, too.
Right.
But there are so many characters in this movie. Because if you think about Colin Farrell, you're like, well, it's just Colin Farrell. But then he's got the crew of like 5 or 6 guys in their tracksuits who are fighting everybody and making the videos. And oh, my God.
Yep. And then there's Charlie Hunnam's guys who are with him. And
Right.
And then there's the women that do the
Auto work.
and Michelle
Dockery.
Dockery's
Yeah.
garage.
Yeah, I kind of dug that. I also dig. I'm blanking on a particular line in this movie, but I dig some of the turns of phrase of characters in the Guy Ritchie movies. I think Rock and Roll comes to mind because it was the most recent one, before this. And there's a line where Idris Elba says, "It says somebody has got more feet on the street than coppers on the beat." And I love some of those turns of phrase that the characters have. And I don't know if that's a Guy Ritchie thing or if it's just British. Like, I don't know if it's just like a British thing.
I think it's a Guy Ritchie thing.
Yeah. It's not like Cockney rhyming slang, but it
Right.
sounds like it,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But like this was not even rhyming, but there's something about it that I love when Michelle Dockery says there's fuckery afoot. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I just love that.
I haven't seen her in a lot of stuff, but she's always great. And she was so
good.
She was so great in this. I was like, man, this is just like letter perfect.
Yep.
Her performance,
Mm-hmm.
I really liked I'm hot and cold on Colin Farrell. Thought he
I
was
always like him.
great in this.
Yeah, he was great.
I'm hot and cold on Eddie Marsan. He was fine.
I've seen him better in things than this.
Oh, sure. But I mean, he's Eddie Marsan, whatever. This is kind of, except for the movie where he plays the Undertaker who can see the dead or whatever. This is kind of what he does.
This is true.
Yeah, and like we said, Charlie Hunnam was fine. Matthew McConaughey, let's talk about him.
Oh yeah, let's talk about him.
Matthew McConaughey is getting old. Like, he's starting to see it.
I feel like you're fixated on people getting old.
It's because I'm getting old, but I mean, this is a really thing, and maybe you experience this too. Maybe you do too. But I feel the exact same stupid 15-year-old. I just feel like I'm an idiot, and like I never learned anything. Except now I'm 45. I feel exactly the same way as I did when I was 25, when I was 20, when I was 15. Just like I have no idea what's going on.
I don't know that ever changes.
I don't know that it does either. But I just like how many people, and maybe everybody does it. It would be great if they did, because have more people to talk about this with. But like just sitting around going like, I just don't. What the fuck? Like all day, every day. That's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were saying that you just feel the same age, but you're just like, I feel like, what the fuck?
I feels the same mental age.
Yeah, I feel just like, well, some people like really get school and some people don't. There came a point in school when I was just like, I just don't understand what's going on here in any subject. Like, I was like maybe a freshman in high school or a sophomore, and I was just like, nothing makes sense to me anymore. And I somehow made it through. But
Huzzah!
Yeah. And then got 2 degrees afterward. I didn't fuck, but all right. What I'm saying is just I feel like a dope. So,
No.
Happy birthday to me.
Yay,
So,
happy birthday.
My birthday is not for a very long time, thank God.
I was like,
but
wasn't it just the end of the year?
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But back to Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, he's getting old. That's where this all started out. He's not Wooderson anymore. I mean, he keeps getting older, and they really do stay the same age. I mean, he's an old man. So
I wasn't as enamored with him in this as I didn't find him quite as charming as
It's kind of flat.
he was kind of the straight man, right?
Yeah.
I mean, straight man is maybe not the right term for this.
Yeah.
But his character is kind of like the one who does the things that you expect him to be cool, and you expect him to know the moves. Where the other characters, they're just like, they're on the periphery, and they're like, hoo-ha-hee.
But I also didn't buy him as being, like, there's something about it I didn't buy, that he was ruthless and vicious. Like, I don't know.
Well, so 2 things. One, I think in this movie, it's more about the idea of his character. Because everyone else treats him as this kind of larger than life figure.
Yeah.
And he talks about that. I mean, like the opening monologue about the lion or being the king and acting like the king. And I think to your point at the end, when he's coming back around to that, he's like, I learned that from my wife.
Right.
So I think that
Right.
maybe that's
Yeah.
the key, is that he is not the guy, but
Mhm.
she is the one that's kind of
She's the vicious, ruthless,
the vicious,
cutthroat
ruthless one who's
Exactly.
Well, she's-
maneuvering him, and especially
Yeah.
because when there's one other line where a character says something like, "You get to him through his wife" or
Yep.
something like that, because she will whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And plus, she's definitely smarter than he is.
Oh,
So,
of course.
Hands down.
you
Yeah.
know, I mean, everybody in the movie is kind of smart, except for some people. But but she's definitely the smartest character, and then followed by Colin Farrell. Probably he's probably the
Probably.
next smartest.
Although Charlie Hunnam might be too, because he knew what was going on the whole time too.
Yeah, except they were
Yeah.
all fooled by the Russians. This is
Oh,
and
that's
this I
true.
can talk about this now. Okay, so let's talk about Batman. Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises. Why is it that Batman, who's supposed to be really fucking smart and has all this technology, gets fooled by everybody? He doesn't know that Ducard is actually Ra's al Ghul. He doesn't know that, I can't remember what it is now, even in the fucking Dark Knight. But then in Dark Knight Rises, he thinks that Bane is the bad guy, but it's actually Marion Cotillard the whole Come on! How do you not
Ra's al
know?
Ghul's daughter.
How do you not know?
How did you know? The horrible Bane voice.
Yeah. I expect you to die.
You just had that moan that he would do.
So-
It's
so
so awkward.
I watched that at home. I've only seen Dark Knight Rises twice, and I watched it, in the critic screening, and then I watched it at home once. And every time Bane came on screen, I turned on the subtitles because I'm like, I just want to make sure that I'm hearing what I think I'm hearing. I was wrong 75% of the time.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
believe it. This is another
That's quite a
Batman
miss.
tangent, and I feel like I need to share because this is
Oh.
kind of a long running spoiler piece thing. This is like an old spoiler piece thing. In each one of those movies, there's at least one line.
I know where you're going.
In each one of those movies, there's at least one line that calls out how ridiculous Christian Bale's Batman voice is. So in Batman Begins, he goes, "Swear to me,"
Yeah.
when he's holding what's his name,
I
Tom Wilkinson.
remember.
I know Dark Knight. I know what it is.
The second one, "I'm not wearing hockey pads,"
Oh, that's the best. I love the way you do it, too.
and then the third, "It's not a car." I mean, come on, it's the most ridiculous voice.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know. And this is what I'm going with. Nobody ever notices that Batman and Bruce Wayne,
Are never together in the same room.
not that, but they have the
Oh.
same speech impediment. So he pushes his tongue against his teeth. Just Batman does it just like Bruce Wayne does it. Have you noticed? Oh, no, I haven't. Huh, that's kind of funny. Oh, and they aren't in the same room at the same time. Maybe it's 90 seconds apart. It's never the same time.
Never.
Okay.
I mean, at least it's not like, Batman just takes off his glasses.
Yeah. And then, hey, why is Clark Kent spinning around really fast over there in the corner? He couldn't even change now. There's no fucking phone booths anymore. What does he do?
I
Well,
know.
listen, that's why Wonder Woman has them all beat, because at least Diana Prince goes off into a field in the corner to do her spinning all by herself to turn
Yeah.
into Wonder Woman.
Does she have to spin? Couldn't she
Yes!
just wear her outfit under her
No,
clothes?
she has to spin.
Is that a rule or is that something they made up for the
That's
show?
in the TV show.
Okay.
No, that's not in the comics or anything. That's in the TV show.
I didn't. I mean, I've not read the comic. I've never read any comics really, but
What?
yeah, I'm not a comic person.
Oh my.
See, this is why when people get into the whole Marvel, DC, or people get angry at Martin Scorsese about, it's just like I never read. I don't really have a lot of skin in this game. I mean, they're fine when they work. They're fine, but all right, I don't need to see them again. I mean, I might see Captain America, Winter Soldier again, but otherwise, eh.
Do you know that and Doctor Strange are the only MCU movies I have not seen?
Oh.
See, I finally saw
know.
Doctor
I
Strange,
need
and
to
I was
see
like,
it.
eh.
Yeah.
No, not that, but I mean, I need to. That I want to see for the cinematography.
Doctor
but
Strange.
I need to see Winter Soldier.
You do need
I
to see
know,
Winter Soldier.
I know.
It took me a very long time to see it, and then I thought, okay,
Yeah.
this is really good. This
yeah,
is
it's
one of
not,
the better ones.
It's not that I don't want to or anything. I definitely do. It's just it keeps getting bumped on my list for more recent things.
I would
Yeah.
say see more movies directed by women than see fucking.
I do. I keep track.
No,
every
I'm not.
year.
It's not direct.
I'm not telling you
I'm
you don't do it enough,
kidding.
Megan.
No, I'm kidding.
What I'm saying is, there are a lot of movies that should be.
Yes.
There's a reason it keeps getting pushed back.
Exactly.
I'm agreeing with what you're saying, kind of coming around the other side obliquely.
I know, and I like that because exactly. There are too many things that people think are, canon and should be canon, and I'm like, no. There are other amazing films over here, like directed by women.
Yeah.
That not enough people are watching. So I agree. Yes.
Speaking of movies directed by women,
Yes.
Guy Ritchie used to be married to Madonna, and she wrote
Not where I thought you were
she
going.
wrote and directed W.E., which is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. So there you go.
Oh, that's sad. And isn't Abby Cornish in that?
She is, and Oscar Isaac.
Do you know? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Abby Cornish picks or her agent or whomever is choosing her films is doing a terrible job because
she's good.
She
can do things.
The only thing I've ever seen her in where she was amazing and the film was equal to her talent was Bright Star.
Okay. I was just waiting for you to say some other movie that I was going to be like, no.
No, it's Bright Star because Bright
Okay.
Star is beautiful and gorgeous and amazing.
I'm not even going to say the movie I was thinking of, man.
Oh, well, now I need to know.
I'll tell you off mic.
Yeah, this seems like a good time to wrap up
So
conversation
wait,
about The Gentleman.
I have one more thing to say about The Gentleman, and I wanted to say it, Evan, when you brought it up, but then we got on the Batman tangent.
Sorry, that was my fault.
don't-
No, it was my. I brought it up first.
No, listen, it was amazing, but I just have to say because it's going to drive me bonkers if I don't. If I had to hear Matthew McConaughey's narration one more time talking about the King of the Jungle, I was going to lose my mind.
There is a lot of King of the Jungle.
It's
talk.
like 5 times. It's like, we get it. You're laying it on a little thick.
Yeah.
It's a little bit much.
I also appreciated the line that Hugh Grant had. I appreciated this line. I didn't want him to fucking speed it up. Was when he was telling the story to Charlie Hunnam, and he's like, "Yeah, they call that laying pipe."
There were some nice film references,
Yeah.
like about the conversation.
There really were. Yeah.
And 35 millimeter and aspect ratio. Yeah.
Snuck that in between Godfather and Godfather Part 2.
That was nice.
And he mentioned John Cazale, which
Yeah,
not a
he
lot of people do.
did.
So there you go.
He did. Speaking of Hugh Grant again, I definitely got a lot of queer vibes from him and how he was hitting on Charlie Hunnam, and I love it.
I
Love
figured
it.
that Charlie Hunnam and he were actually going to end up having a thing, but I guess not.
I'm here for that. That
No,
would've been
I was
great.
waiting for that to come where it was, it's kind of like, oh, you think it's just like we're making the jokes. And then it's like, oh, no, he's into it too.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen.
I would have loved if it did.
No.
Yeah. So.
But maybe there'll be a sequel since they kept alluding to a sequel. But anyway.
Yeah. All right.
Maybe that'll happen in that. They'll have a
Who knows?
great queer love story.
Aw.
Best kind of love story.
Yeah.
All right. So, what would we say about The Gentleman? It sounds like you said you don't need to see it in the theaters. Do we feel like it's a see, a skip? How do we feel about it?
It's better than your average January release.
Sure. I would say you need to see it because Hugh Grant and Michelle Dockery are so goddamn good in this.
That's true. And Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
I'll throw him in there too.
Yeah, I think when the story or the storytelling is weaker in places, it's made up for by really entertaining performances.
And Charlie Hunnam too. I'll throw him in there too.
Oh, and I'll throw in Henry Golding.
Oh
Why
yeah, he
not?
was great too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess overall the cast is really good.
Yeah, that is one thing that's definitely another thing that he does well is picking good people to be in a movie together and play off each other.
Yeah.
Except for Brad Pitt. in
Yeah,
Snatch.
that was a weird choice.
Well, Brad Pitt thinks he's a character actor, but he's a movie star. So
He thinks
There's
he's
that.
a character actor? Or
have you never noticed how
Yeah,
some of like the
no,
weird
That's true.
weird in
Yeah,
air quotes things that he
yeah.
does? But he's really just an enunciator. So
That's true.
that means, except for Snatch, he's the anti-enunciator. But
Right.
otherwise,
Definitely need the subtitles for him.
yeah. Any spray.
Anyway, so that's been The Gentleman. And yeah, it sounds like generally we're going to say see it. Thank you for tuning in, as always, friends. You can find the show anywhere you can get podcasts, but you can also find us at our website, which is spoilerpiece.com. And if you like the show, please rate and review us on your podcast platform of choice. That will help other people find the show. And also just make us feel nice and warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, and if you don't like it, just move along.
Yeah.
Because we want to feel nice and
Yeah,
warm and
nothing to
fuzzy.
see here. It's cool. This only took 45 minutes. Be gone.
And if you really, really like the show, head over to patreon.com/spoilerpiece and join our Patreon. For as low as $5 a month, you can hear exclusive audio, like this week's audio, where we talk about the Rom-Com Plus One, which is available on Hulu. And you can vote in polls. And then there's a tier where you can pick movies for us to see and talk about, which is a lot of fun. And I believe we're owed some decisions in the coming weeks on the next movies that we're going to be watching. And look out next week for the results of our poll. We'll be talking about a movie, an 80s sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I cannot wait. So excited.
I'm excited for that too.
I just want everybody to know that when I threw all 15 movies that we narrowed down into the hat and picked 6, it was actually Chris Jensen's yarmulke from his wedding, the one that he gave out to all the guests. So
That's
you're
so
still in our hearts,
lovely.
Chris.
Call back.
Hi, Chris.
And so that does it for this week. And you can find if you want to get in touch with us, there's a few places you can do that. You can send us an email. We're spoilerpiece@gmail.com. We are on Twitter. We're @spoilerpiece. Same thing with Instagram, and we're also Spoilerpiece Theater on Facebook. And you can give us a call.
862-21-PEACE.
Leave us a message, and we might play on the show. We might talk about it. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
But we'd love to hear from you.
We'd love to hear from you, for sure.
They'd love to hear from you.
I can't say the same for myself.
I'm just kidding. I want to hear from you too.
Anyway, my name is Evan Crean. I am editor for The Independent. I'm co-chair of BAFCA, co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living, and you can follow me on Twitter and on Letterboxd as Real Recon.
I'm Megan Kearns. I'm a freelance film critic, editor of Bitchflix, and also a member of BAFCA. You can follow me on Twitter @OpinionSWorld and on Instagram @TheOpinionS.
And my name is Dave Riedel. I write for Salt Lake City Weekly, Orlando Weekly. I'm a member of BAFCA. You can find me on Twitter, Letterboxd, and Instagram as Dave Sees Movies, and I wear friendship bracelets. Just thought I'd mention that. Yeah.
I love that little factoid.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week, friends.
Bye.
Bye.